Hello everyone. How are you all today? I hope you all are fine just like me. So today we are going to have an interactive class in which I will teach you few topics of chemistry class 10th, which is chemical reaction and equation. So before I begin, I would like to introduce myself. I am Shruti Pandey from Standard 10th in Scholars Educare, and today, utilizing this great opportunity, I will teach you the types of chemical reaction. But before we start our main topic, I would like to I would like to tell you some key terms which is necessary to understand the importance and types of chemical reaction. So first is chemical reaction, and second is reactants, and third is product. Let's understand with example. So let's understand some key terms, which is chemical reaction. So the process in which new substance with new properties are formed is called chemical reaction. For example, burning of magnesium. And second is reactants. So the substance which take part in chemical reaction are called reactants, and the last one is product. So the new substance form is called products. Let's understand with example. For example, burning of magnesium ribbon. 2 mg combined with oxygen to form magnesium oxide. This reaction, Mg and O2 combine to form magnesium oxide. So this is the example of reactants. And the new substance form is magnesium oxide. So this is the example of products. Now come to our main topic and know how chemical reactions are classified. So chemical reactions are mainly classified in 4 types. But here we will study about 6 types of chemical reaction, including exothermic and endothermic reaction, and oxidation and reduction reaction. So let's understand the types of chemical reaction. So the 4 main types of chemical reaction is combination reaction, decomposition reaction, displacement reaction, double displacement reaction, and oxidation and reduction. So let's start with the first type, which is combination reaction. So the reaction in which 2 or more substances combine to form a single substance is called combination reaction. Let's understand with example. For example, magnesium and oxygen combine to form magnesium oxide. This reaction, magnesium and oxygen combine and form magnesium oxide. Another example is calcium oxide, water combine to form calcium hydroxide. The equation of this reaction is plus B gives AB. The second type of equation is decomposition reaction. So the reaction in which one substance is split into 2 or more substances is called decomposition reaction. The equation of this reaction is AB gives A plus B. It is just opposite to the chemical reaction. Let's understand the examples of decomposition reaction. The example of decomposition reaction is calcium carbonate gives calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. And another example is ferrous sulfate gives ferric oxide and sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. So this is the example of chemical reaction. And now the third types of chemical reaction is displacement reaction. So the reaction in which one more reactive metal displaces less reactive is called displacement reaction. Let's understand with example. The examples are zinc plus hydrochloride H2SO4 gives Zn plus ZnSO4 plus H2. In this reaction, zinc and H2SO4 combine, react and form zinc sulfate and hydrogen. Hydrogen gases evolve in this reaction. So in this reaction, zinc is more reactive than hydrogen, so it displaces zinc and forms zinc sulfate. And hydrogen gas is evolved. Another example is Fe iron plus CuSO4 gives FeSO4 ferrous sulfate plus Cu. In this reaction, iron and CuSO4 combine and gives ferrous sulfate and copper. In this reaction, iron is more reactive than copper, so it displaces copper and forms ferrous sulfate and Cu. Now, next type of reaction is double displacement reaction. So the reaction in which different types of ions or group of atoms displace each other. For the equation of this reaction is AB plus CD gives AD plus BC. Some example of decomposition reaction. Some example of double displacement reaction is Na2 sodium sulfate plus barium chloride combine and gives barium sulfate plus sodium chloride. In this reaction, barium is more reactive than sodium, so it displaces sodium and form barium sulfate, and sodium chloride is another product form. So the next type of chemical reaction is oxidation and reduction reaction. Let's understand both types of reaction one by one. So first is oxidation reaction. So the reaction in which oxidation is being added or hydrogen is being removed is called oxidation reaction. For example, 2Cu copper plus O2 gives 2CuO. In this reaction, copper is being added to the oxygen is being added to the copper, and so the copper is oxidized and form copper oxide. In this type of reaction, electrons are loose. And the next is reduction reaction. So the reaction in which hydrogen is being added or oxygen is being removed is called reduction reaction. In this type of reaction, electrons are gained. Let's understand the example of reduction reaction. H2SO4, H2S plus chlorine react and form sulfur plus hydrochloric acid. Reaction, hydrogen is being added to chlorine. So this is the example of oxidation reaction. And now the last types of chemical reaction is endothermic and exothermic reaction. So the first reaction is endothermic reaction. So the reaction in which heat is absorbed is called endothermic reaction. For example, 2FeSO4 gives Fe2O3 plus SO2 and SO3, sulfur trioxide. So in this reaction, heat is being absorbed to spill ferrous sulfate into ferric oxide, sulfur dioxide, and sulfur trioxide. So this is the example of endothermic reaction. And if you take another example, calcium carbonate gives calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. So in this reaction, calcium calcium carbonate is being splitted with the help of heat into calcium oxide or carbon dioxide. So this is the example of endothermic reaction, and the last one is exothermic reaction. So the reaction in which heat is being released is called exothermic reaction, and the example of this reaction is burning of magnesium. Uh, magnesium In this reaction, magnesium and oxygen combine to form magnesium oxide, and heat is being released. And another example is calcium oxide and hydrogen gives hydroxide plus heat. Heat is also being released in this reaction. So this was all about types of chemical reaction, but I would like to tell you another types of decomposition reaction, because I forget to teach you about this. So I will tell you about decomposition reaction, but I will teach you here the types of decomposition reaction. So decomposition reaction are of three types. First, thermal decomposition. Second, electrolytic decomposition, and third is photochemical decomposition. So let's understand one by one with the help of example to understand better. So first is thermal decomposition. The word thermal means heat, so the decomposition done by heat is called thermal decomposition. So for example, Fe2 Fe SO4 ferrosulfate gives ferric oxide plus sulfur dioxide plus sulfur trioxide. So in this reaction, heat is being absorbed to decompose ferric sulfate into ferric oxide and sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. So this is the example of thermal decomposition. Second is electrolytic decomposition. So the decomposition done with the help of electricity is called electrolytic decomposition. So the example of electrolytic decomposition is 2H2 2H2O gives H2 plus O2. So in this reaction, hydrogen in this reaction, water is splitted into hydrogen and oxygen with the help of electricity. So this is the example of electrolytic decomposition. And the last one is photochemical decomposition. The word photo means light. So the decomposition done with the help of sunlight is called photochemical decomposition. And if you take the example of photochemical decomposition, it is 2 silver chloride gives silver plus chloride, and 2 silver bromide gives silver plus bromide. So this is the example of photochemical reaction, and this both reaction is used in white and black photography. To be noticed that if silver chloride and silver bromide is kept in a dark container, because if sunlight will fall in this silver chloride or silver bromide, it will react and form silver. It will react and decompose again into silver and chloride. So this silver chloride and silver bromide are kept in dark containers. So this was all about type of chemical reaction. I hope you all understand it betterly. And now I would like to hand over my class to the other classmates, and they will teach the remaining topics. So thank you everyone for your attention.